Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
It was a dreadful thing to do and actually completely wrong. He is quite hard and harsh.
He became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships.
People like Meghan will always stay with the man if there's no better option.
What if the very future of the British monarchy, an empire built on bloodlines, power, and centuries of tradition, was suddenly hanging by a thread? Not because of war, not because of politics, but because two people turned royal duty into a Netflix storyline. Yes, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have managed to drag the crown into their own Hollywood spectacle. This is the same couple who screamed for the world to respect their privacy, yet they just can't stop turning every moment of their lives into a money-making circus.
Meghan is using everything for publicity and not really truly there. We know how she treats her family and friends.
Cameras, contracts, and staged interviews everywhere. Yet when it comes to the most important truth of all, who their children really are, they've gone silent. Instead, we get fake smiles, staged photo ops, and nothing but contradictions. Meghan walked into the royal family like it was her biggest role ever, and Harry followed her right back out of the palace like a man hypnotized, tossing centuries of royal tradition in exchange for California photo shoots and podcast deals nobody even listens to. They painted themselves as victims, rebels, even saints, fighting against a cruel institution. But behind the scenes, it looks more like cashing in on the family name while dodging the simplest duty of all, honesty. And now, with Angela Levin dropping a bombshell about Archie and Lilibet's very parentage, the questions are louder than ever.
Diana treated her children. It was very important to care about people and not to think about themselves, and that money didn't matter very much. What did matter was to look after people.
The empire of excuses is crumbling fast. Harry's angry threats of lawsuits don't scream power. They reek of pure panic. And Meghan's quiet act doesn't look like grace at all. It looks like she's dodging the truth on purpose. The couple who thought they could play chess with the monarchy now find themselves trapped by the very game they thought they could beat: accountability. And make no mistake, this isn't just their scandal. This is about whether the crown itself can withstand the mess they've unleashed. When Harry and Meghan's wedding anniversary came around, everyone braced for the next performance. People expected a flashy Netflix-style photo dump, maybe a glossy spread of "look at us, we're still important," or at the very least, some PR stunt from their Hollywood buddies. But instead, nothing. No royal nods, no glowing headlines, not even a sympathy post from their so-called famous friends. The silence wasn't classy. It was cold, and it spoke volumes, and the irony is impossible to ignore. The couple who once branded themselves as bold rebels rewriting history now look like they've been erased from it. Meghan, the so-called Duchess of Disruption, couldn't even cook up a fake Instagram moment to keep her fairy tale alive. And Harry? He's starting to look less like a prince and more like a man lost in the spotlight he begged for. And Harry? He looked less like a prince and more like a man realizing his so-called royal freedom had led him straight into a California dead end. The couple who once demanded the world's attention now found themselves brushed aside, their big anniversary reduced to a tiny footnote nobody even cared to click on. But that silence wasn't just embarrassing, it opened the door for something way more devastating. Because once the headlines stopped flattering them and the cameras stopped flashing, Angela Levin stepped in with a revelation so sharp it cut through their fairy tale like a knife. Levin didn't tiptoe around it. She didn't soften her words. She went in with the force of someone who's studied the royals for decades and knows exactly where to strike. And when she dropped her bombshell, the glossy mask Harry and Meghan had been clinging to shattered instantly. She said what millions had quietly suspected but never dared to say out loud: Archie and Lilibet's parentage might not be as straightforward as the Sussexes want the world to believe. Suddenly, the couple who built their brand on our truth had to face that same truth being turned against them, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Their credibility was already dangling by a thread, and when those flashy media deals flopped, Angela Levin's claims yanked that thread into a noose.
She is so odious, it's beyond belief.
Absolute media manipulation. But I thought tonight this was really ridiculous. These are two real imposters.
Instead of the glowing image of doting parents, the whispers grew darker. Talk of surrogacy, secrets, and straight-up deception started to take over. Levin didn't sound bitter or cruel. She sounded seasoned, like someone who had finally said out loud what everyone else was too afraid to ask. Where were the hospital photos? Where was the documentation? Where was the centuries-old tradition every royal mother before Meghan proudly followed? The silence was deafening. And in the royal world, silence doesn't protect you. It exposes you. Levin's bombshell wasn't some tabloid rumor. It was a direct hit at their very legitimacy. The kind of shot you can't smooth over with a staged Oprah sob story or a glossy Netflix promo. This was the spark of a scandal too big to bury, whether behind palace gates or California fences. And Harry, the same man who once boasted he could handle war zones, suddenly crumbled at the simple idea that people wanted answers. Instead of stepping up with receipts to shut the whispers down, he fell back on the oldest royal privilege in the book, threatening lawsuits. That's right, the man who claimed he ditched the palace to escape toxic media now clings to lawyers like a lifeline whenever the story slips out of his grip. The irony here is almost too good. Legal threats don't kill a rumor, they make it grow. The moment Harry hurled his fury at Angela Levin, nobody thought, poor Harry. They thought, what's he trying so hard to hide? A confident leader, a secure father, would have shut it down in seconds with proof. But Harry? He went red-faced, stomping like a tantrum-throwing celeb caught lying on late-night TV, hardly the image of a prince. And Meghan? His so-called warrior queen? She was nowhere in sight. No speeches, no posts, no carefully staged photo ops, just silence, leaving Harry swinging wildly in the dark. The more he fought, the weaker he looked. And here's the cruel twist. Every lawsuit threat he threw didn't kill Levin's fire. It fueled it. By trying to shut her up, Harry basically proved her right. He looked terrified of the truth ever seeing daylight. Rage without receipts isn't power, it's pure desperation. And Harry's desperate storm didn't bury the whispers. It guaranteed the scandal would roar even louder. Suddenly, 3 little letters started haunting every conversation. DNA. The one thing that could end all speculation in a heartbeat. Harry and Meghan treated the very idea of DNA like it was kryptonite. Commentators, journalists, even die-hard royal watchers who once defended them suddenly wanted receipts. No gossip, no airbrushed photos, no Netflix fluff. They demanded hard proof, the kind that can't be staged or spun. And the Sussex silence? It spoke louder than any denial ever could. This time, the spotlight didn't land on Archie. It zeroed in on Lilibet, the child whose very name was supposed to honor the late queen and carry on the royal bloodline, now sat at the center of explosive doubt. Whispers turned sharp. Was Lilibet even Meghan's biological daughter, or just another carefully crafted piece of the Sussex brand? Even the suggestion sent shockwaves, because without a clear bloodline, her place in the royal order crumbles into nothing but smoke and mirrors. That's not just gossip. That's the foundation of monarchy shaking.
But if she hasn't had the children herself, or Harry hadn't been involved, then they can't be in the royal line. They have to have royal blood, those little ones. Without that, there's no chance of them becoming a member of the royal family.
And Harry? He raged, stomped, and fumed like a man backed into a corner, yet still refused the one simple way to end it all. A single test, one swab, one answer nobody could dispute. Instead, he clung to secrecy, dragging Meghan deeper into the storm of suspicion and leaving the world to wonder what truth they were so desperate to hide. And Meghan? She stayed in the shadows, letting Harry flail around like a man drowning, fists swinging in the dark. Every question dodged, every demand ignored, only convinced people of what they already believed, that the Sussexes were hiding way more than they'd ever admit. DNA became the ultimate symbol of truth, and their refusal to face it made the whispers roar like thunder. For centuries, royal mothers followed the same sacred script: give birth, step outside the hospital, and show the future heir to the nation. Exhausted or not, they did it. Diana did it, Kate Middleton did it 3 times. Her face pale, but her transparency undeniable. But Meghan, she shredded that script like it was beneath her. Instead of openness, she handed the world smoke and mirrors, vanishing acts, staged moments that looked off, and a baby bump that seemed to follow its own strange timeline. It didn't feel like royal duty. It felt like a reality TV cliffhanger. And Harry, grinning beside her like a clueless sidekick, acted as if nobody would dare notice the gaping plot holes in their story. But the public noticed. Oh, they noticed. They noticed the carefully cropped photos, the missing hospital traditions, the absence of any medical proof that once reassured generations of Brits. Those gaps weren't harmless. They became the perfect soil for ugly whispers to grow. Surrogacy, staged images, a couple desperate to sell their own version of truth, yet unable to keep the cracks from showing. And now, the very questions they tried to bury have become louder than the fairy tale they fought to sell. Meghan, who once sold herself as the champion of authenticity, now looks like the queen of fakery. And Harry, the same man who used to laugh off wild conspiracies, now finds himself starring in one. By tossing centuries of tradition aside, they didn't modernize the monarchy. They weakened it. Every shady move, every unanswered question poured gasoline on the fire Angela Levin had lit. And instead of calming doubts, their secrecy made them permanent suspects in a mystery of their own making. This is where gossip turns dangerous. When Meghan and Harry chose secrecy over transparency, they didn't just bend the rules, they cracked the foundation of royal legitimacy itself. The monarchy lives and dies on one thing: bloodline, an unbroken chain of heirs stretching back for centuries. But by clouding their children's origins in mystery, the Sussexes have put that chain in jeopardy. Meghan, once paraded as the modern face of royalty, now looks more like the architect of its downfall. Her silence doesn't scream dignity. It whispers guilt. And Harry, the prince born into privilege but never burdened with true responsibility, now looks like a loose cannon, a liability to the very crown he once swore to protect. His tantrums, his lawsuits, his rage, they don't look like a proud father defending his kids. They look like a man guarding a fragile secret he can't afford to expose. The longer they dodge the simple truth, the more whispers of illegitimacy harden into public belief.
Buckingham Palace is being pressured to remove Prince Archie and Princess Elizabeth from the UK's royal line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute proof that she popped out both babies herself.
This isn't just about 2 children. It's about the survival of the monarchy itself. Because if heirs are doubted at every turn, the shadow doesn't just haunt Meghan and Harry, it stains the throne. Angela Levin didn't just drop a bombshell and walk away. She twisted the knife. She warned that if Harry drags this circus into a courtroom, it could be catastrophic. Judges don't bow to crowns or Netflix contracts. They demand evidence, hospital records, medical files, and yes, DNA. For a couple obsessed with controlling their own narrative, the thought of a judge forcing their truth into daylight must be their ultimate nightmare. And Levin wasn't done. She hinted there's more, much more, tucked away like ammunition, waiting to detonate. And while Harry swings blindly at shadows, the real destruction is unfolding right in front of the world. The giants of Hollywood once lined up to sign the Sussexes, throwing money and prestige their way. But now, those contracts are collapsing, their credibility is vanishing, and the so-called golden couple of Montecito is looking like the worst investment in town. Meghan, who styled herself as Hollywood's new royalty, is suddenly finding doors slammed shut. Harry, who thought his last name alone would guarantee influence, is learning the harsh truth. It guarantees nothing when the public stops believing. And Angela Levin's warning? It wasn't just aimed at them personally. It was a spotlight exposing the cracks in their entire empire. Because if the truth ever hits a courtroom, they won't just lose face. They'll lose everything. At the end of this storm, one fact stands tall. Archie and Lilibet's future isn't just about family privacy. It's a constitutional fault line waiting to explode. Monarchies live and die on bloodline. That's the reason kings rise, queens reign, and dynasties survive. Without transparency, every title the Sussex children hold becomes a question mark. And a monarchy built on question marks cannot stand. Meghan, once hailed as the modern savior of the crown, now looks like the architect of its undoing. Her silence doesn't look noble. It looks calculated, cold, and dripping with avoidance. And Harry, the cheeky prince once adored worldwide, now looks like a man raging at shadows, waving around threats instead of proof. He doesn't look strong, he looks terrified. And nothing is more dangerous to the monarchy than a prince who seems afraid of the truth. If Parliament is ever forced to step in, the fallout won't just scar Meghan and Harry. It could shake the entire institution to its core. Imagine it. DNA tests, medical files, legal cross-examinations dragging centuries of royal mystique into the blinding light of a courtroom. One simple test could shut it all down, yet they treat the truth like it would burn their empire to ashes. Maybe that's exactly why they keep running, because deep down, they know exposure could erase the last scraps of credibility they're still clinging to. And if you thought this scandal was explosive, you haven't seen the full picture. On Star Spotlight, we already revealed how Meghan and Harry's shiny media empire started crumbling long before Angela Levin's bombshell. Don't miss that breakdown. It's the missing piece that proves just how deep this downfall really goes. So hit that subscribe, drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.